everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel where we do painting tutorials. Today I'll be doing some cotton candy clouds with watercolors. I start by weighing the entire page, the entire sheet of paper with some water using a spray ball because it's just easier and faster than using a brush. It's just more effective. Feel free to use a big fluffy brush instead. And I apply some cadmium yellow slightly below the center, slightly below the middle point of my page. Everything is wet, so it's going to flow seamlessly throughout the page. It's going to diffuse in a very soft manner. And I apply some cadmium orange around it and a bit over it. And for the top of the sky, I use some intense blue by Winsor and Cotman. All these paints are Winsor and Cotman, and that's just their brand name for Phthalo Blue. If you're using a different brand of colors, chances are it's gonna be named Phthalo Blue or something similar. I don't know why sometimes brands have different names for the same exact color, but anyhow, I keep on applying a bit more of this very saturated blue color, focusing it mostly on the top side of my page, and then whatever pigment I have left over on my brush, I gently bring it down towards the center of the page. However, I want the center to be the lightest area. That's where we applied the yellow first. So I won't be making it too saturated. I won't be using too much blue on that area. I want that to be the main highlight, the main focus of this painting. Then I mix some cadmium orange with some cadmium red and a bit of this phthalo blue or intense blue as the brand name suggests. And this is going to give me a very nice dark color I will use for my shadows. I apply the shadows on the top side of the clouds. They're above that yellowy highlight focus piece of our painting. So everything above halfway of the sheet. All the clouds in that area are going to have a darker top and a lighter bottom. And everything below the central part of our painting is gonna be the opposite, aka the clouds below the center are gonna have a lighter top and a darker bottom because that's how the sun rays hit them. The paper I am using does have some cotton in it. It's not 100% cotton, but it does have a good amount. So what cotton does is it typically keeps the paper wet for longer compared to cellulose paper. Everything is still wet and it's still going to flow, and I'm gonna get very seamless and smooth finish. I have applied this darker mix to the bottom of my clouds that are on the bottom, and I use a clean wet brush to help gently blend them. Now, the trick to get a very nice saturated results to make this look a bit more realistic. However, it's still gonna be dramatic because it's me. I always make dramatic paintings. We'll need to layer these colors to build up a very strong saturation. So I apply my cadmium orange between the initial orange and the bluish dark mix I did on the top. That way, the very bottom of the top clouds is still gonna be light and the top part of the bottom clouds is still gonna reflect those sun rays. I'm just using this as like a middle tone, and then I'll feather it out with a clean wet brush to create sort of like a gradient. So the darkest part of the clouds stays dark, then it transitions into orange and a very, very bright cream kind of like color. The reason I've chosen to use a brush that you may consider a bit too small for this painting is I am using cotman watercolors, which are beginner grade colors and don't have the best pigmentation. And I did spray the entire sheet with water, so the results should look very diluted and pale. However, when you use a slightly smaller and stiffer brush, it picks up a bit more of the color, a bit more of the watercolor paints, resulting in slightly more saturated results. If you still struggle to get a good amount of color from your paints, a neat little trick is you can add a droplet of clean water onto them 2 minutes before you start painting, or just use a spray ball on your paints as well. That way everything has a moment to activate and they're gonna be slightly more creamy and thus allow you to use more of the color. Now I keep on building more layers. I add more of the orange beneath the clouds on the top side. And keep in mind, at least the way I like to do it is I want my clouds to have a rounder shape to them, so I try to smooth it out and make it Sort of like, a stick of cotton candy you get at a fair, rather than just using the tip of my brush to make it look like a forest or something. Now, I was thinking to maybe add some foreground right there on the bone where I left it blank, but it won't look good with this painting because we have too much clouds and it would just look strange. So I opted to add one more cloud right there, and I do that by applying some intense blue on the bottom and my cadmium orange on top. Then I'm going to use the lifting technique to pick up some of the paint to make it look like the surrounding cloud so it does not stick out. It's just gonna slightly mute it down and make it look like the cloud we have right behind it. Now I'm mixing cadmium orange with cadmium red and more of the intense blue to get that very nice dark saturated color that looks almost like black. And I use this on the top side of my top 3 clouds to give them a bit more definition, because when I initially painted them, the background was still wet because again the paper is part cotton. And it diffused into the background and you couldn't really see where the clouds end and where the sky starts. So I'm just going right now to give them a bit more definition to define the shapes and darken the shadows. I also applied small bits on the top corners to darken the sky, and I apply small bits on the bottom corners because the highlight is going to be in the center, so the top and the bottom are going to be much darker than the center. I use it to outline that second bottom cloud right there, so the one that is on the bottom is really gonna pop out in comparison. And then with a clean wet brush, I diffuse any harsh edges or any parts that don't look too smooth. If you have lost some highlights, maybe the bottom of the clouds end up being too dark, you can just go with a clean wet brush to gently rub over them and then pick up the pigment with a napkin, and voila, you're gonna have some brighter areas, aka some very simple highlights you can add onto your painting if you've accidentally painted over them. And lastly, I'm just gonna add a bit more orange to the clouds I have around the center and a smidge of cadmium yellow at the very top of those clouds, the clouds we have on the bottom side, just enough to make it look like the sun rays are reflecting off of them. And that is it. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters for the month of January. If you found any value in this video, please let me know by liking, commenting, and if you have not already, please consider subscribing to the channel as it really helps with the algorithm. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!